A smaller number may adjourn from day to day and may be authorized to compel the attendance of absent members in such manner and under such penalties as each House may provide. So the Sergeant-at-Arms of the House or the Senate is, in fact, authorized to compel or bring senators or representatives back to their respective bodies if they're not authorized because they're sick or whatever other reason the presiding officer might accept as legitimate to not be there, to be absent. One story I can think of is Senator Packwood, Robert Packwood, who didn't want to vote on a bill, and this was at the tail end of the Reagan administration. So he went and hid in his office to deny the Senate quorum by which they could vote on the bill. So the Sergeant-at-Arms was authorized to go and get him, and I mean, I would advise you not to mess with the Sergeant-at-Arms or their staff if you ever are in the environs of the Capitol, because they busted his door down and carried him into the Senate chamber. And you can Google that, Robert Packwood, quorum, bill. I mean, I just some keywords from the story I just told you. Each House may determine the rules of its proceedings, punish its members for disorderly behavior, and, with the concurrence of 2/3, expel a member. So the House of Representatives in particular these days has become very fond of censuring its members for one thing or another. So, for example, one member, they passed a resolution. This was during the joint address that President Trump delivered earlier in the year. Al Green, he was the representative from Texas, if you watched this address, who got up and started waving his cane around in the air. He was censured by the U.S. House of Representatives. I'm reading the history.house.gov website. I'm reading from that. On March 6, 2025, for conduct during a joint address by the President, which disrupted the proceedings and was a breach of proper conduct. That's Representative Al Green, and you can see that on YouTube if you're so moved. Another was Jamal Bowman, Democrat from New York, who was the guy that pulled the fire alarm in the House building, censured by the U.S. House of Representatives on December 7th, 2023, for having forced the evacuation of the Cannon House office building and disrupted the work of Congress as a vote was underway on the floor of the House. So the congressmen get up to all sorts of things. And censuring is only, I should say, one form of punishment. There are other things that can be done. Both houses will keep a journal of their proceedings and publish it from time to time. The journal will not include parts of congressional proceedings that ought to be kept secret. And that's never quite sat right with me, because that's according to the judgment of Congress about what ought to be kept secret. And I don't have a great deal of confidence in that body, just between you and me. So 1/5 of the membership of either House of Congress is required to get a roll call of a particular vote entered into the appropriate journal. So why might somebody want a roll call vote? Say there's a senator from Wisconsin who wants to prove to dairy farmers that he's pro-dairy and should earn their votes because he goes to Washington and fights for them. So he gets 19 of his friends in the Senate to go along with this and vote. And that vote's then put on the record. And then he has something he can take back to Wisconsin with him and say, look, dairy farmers, I'm good for you. That's one reason why you might want a roll call vote. Neither house during the session of Congress shall, without the consent of the other, adjourn for more than 3 days, nor to any other place than that in which the two houses shall be sitting. So the House can't leave for more than 3 days without talking to the Senate. Same thing, the Senate to the House. They can't go, say, and meet in Pennsylvania or New York or any other weird place. They meet in Washington, D.C. Senators and representatives will be paid from the U.S. Treasury. Fairly self-explanatory. Except in cases of treason, felony, or breach of the peace, they will be privileged from arrest during their attendance at the session of their respective houses and in going to and returning from the same. And for any speech or debate in either house, they shall not be questioned in any other place. Our elected officials to be able to speak freely, to express themselves fully without fear of recrimination or reprisal from the law. This has been a guiding principle of our country forever. I mean, freedom of speech, freedom of expression. We want them to have that so they can make the best laws and policies possible for our country. So while they're on the floor of their respective chamber and while they're coming to or leaving from that place to go back home, they're immune. I mean, from what they've said. Now, that doesn't obviously extend to hate, somebody making a death threat or anything like that. But if they're proposing tax policy and a citizen doesn't like it, well, tough. Now, this has been abused. Like Ted Kennedy was driving drunk one night, got pulled over, and claimed he was going to the Senate floor to make a speech at like 11 o'clock at night. The officer, I quite rightfully didn't believe it, and he was charged with drunk driving. But, anything that involves human beings, or, it's ripe for abuse. As I said, this was inserted so representatives and senators could feel free to speak their minds on the floor. If you think you're going to be arrested and questioned by the police, you're not going to say what you want to or need to say, what's on your mind. No member of Congress will be appointed to any other office under the authority of the United States during their term. And this goes back to the presidency unit when we were talking about the line of succession, when I told you that it was illegal to work for two branches of the federal government at the same time. But they can resign to take up another post, like Jeff Sessions. He was a senator. He was President Trump's first attorney general. He went through him during his first administration. All bills for raising revenue shall originate in the House of Representatives, but the Senate may propose or concur with amendments as on other bills. This is just an old parliamentary thing that the lower house manages the money. I've got no better explanation for it than that. The Senate can tinker with it a bit, but it's the House's prerogative, really, to hold the power of the purse. And after a bill passes both the House and the Senate, it goes to the President, where he signs it or vetoes it, whatever he wants.